Hello everyone and welcome to another ride overview. Today we are going to take a look at the Virginia Reel. It is one of the coaster types that has access to the tiny one-tile turns, which means that it's a coaster type that's meant to be small and compact. There isn't a whole lot to say about the Virginia Reel, so this video won't be very long. There will be no section about the special elements because apart from the station it doesn't get any. However, this doesn't mean that it's a bad coaster type. It's not as good as the Wild Mouse or the Wooden Wild Mouse, but it's still quite decent. It's cheap, compact, has high stats for the price and size, and it's a good early money maker. If you want to make a large design with a high excitement rating, that's also possible, as it doesn't gain intensity too quickly if you're careful. This is a design with over 10 excitement created by Stu, and this footage is from his video on the scenario Nevermore Park. Stu is another RCT YouTuber who has done let's plays of all scenarios in RCT Classic and is currently going through custom scenario packs. His playstyle is somewhere between my optimized way and a more scenic style. I think that you guys will like that, so check out his channel if you're interested. It's linked in the description. The stat ratio of the Virginia Reel isn't the greatest, as usually all its stats are about the same. However, this is not a huge issue, as it means that you can charge more for it, and as long as you don't have too many lateral Gs, it's very hard to get over 10 intensity with this coaster without doing it on purpose. I used to think that the Virginia Reel can fly off the tracks if it takes a hill too fast, just like the bobsleigh coaster. Luckily, this is not true. You might also think that the guests get more nauseous if the car spins more, but as far as I know this is purely aesthetic and it doesn't do anything. Before we get to the designs, let's go over the stat requirements the Virginia Reel has. It only has 2 of them. The first is that it needs at least 2 drops, and the second one is that it needs to be at least 210 meters long. If it doesn't make one of these requirements, it will get its stats divided by 2 for every requirement it fails to meet. Now onto the designs. We have 2 cheap designs. The bottom one is the absolute cheapest that I could come up with, and the top one is a bit more square, so it's often a bit easier to fit. The top one also has a bit higher stats, so I think it's a better choice. Both are cheaper than the smallest design that avoids stat penalties from many other coasters, and their stats aren't that bad. Before I show you the next 2 designs, I want to give a shout out to the pre-builts Crazy Knights and Texas Tubs. They're very cheap and compact and they have quite good stats. If you can't be bothered building your own Virginia Reel, these 2 are very good alternatives. As usual, the second design is the design that's probably the best for scenario play. It has higher stat, but it's still very cheap. This one actually has enough cars to get a decent throughput, as opposed to the cheapest designs, which only had 2 cars. The last design fulfills 2 purposes. The first one is that it has the highest stats, meaning that you can charge more for it. Because of all the drops it has over 7 intensity, which means that it could even do well in scenarios where the guests prefer more intense rides, providing that you keep your guests happy enough. The second purpose is in scenarios with a harder guest generation enabled. It has over 6 excitement and it is over 600 meters long, which means that it will count more towards the guest cap in those scenarios. Since the Virginia Reel is so cheap, this is one of the cheapest ways to increase the soft guest cap in scenarios with harder guest generation. That is everything I have to say about the Virginia Reel. It's a simple coaster type that is good for early income, and it has a niche use as a cheap way to get more guests in those scenarios with harder guest generation enabled. A zip file with the designs is in the description. A calculator that you can use to calculate how much you can charge for your coasters is also in the description. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next video.